What's up everyone, it's Bropton, and today I'm going to try to recreate this classic Batman intro with all the wrong action figures. Before I start, I'm going to need a set. Without much set building experience, all I did was cut out some strips of paper to make it look like the buildings. For an extra touch, I just cut out a circle out of white paper and then taped it back behind a building to look like the moon. And I made these makeshift buildings using these old aquarium holders, and they have these cutouts in them. I taped some white paper to the inside to make it look like lit up windows. These I would use here and there in the shot just to give an impression of an actual physical building that's not far off in the background. And that's literally all I did for the set. I think this type of simple flat background matches the animated series, and honestly it's just a lot easier for me. Every shot is with my same narrow background, so I have to try to get creative to make it look like it's actually changing angles. In one shot I can have the moon there, in another shot I can take it away. Most of the time I was kind of just betting on the fact that when I change the camera you probably won't notice that it's the exact same background. You probably notice now just because I said that though. I can also strategically place those buildings I made just to make it look like things are changing in the background. Now the Batman I'm going to be using is the Mafex Hush Batman. This is obviously not the right one, as it should be the animated series Batman, but this is the only one I have, and this is my favorite look for Batman as an action figure. Honestly, I don't have any generic goons, generic bank robber characters, or even police officers. I went and looked at my collection and I realized I only really have Dragon Ball. So I just opted to use some of my Dragon Ball characters with head swaps, and I just tried to pick heads that weren't giant Super Saiyan hair or anything crazy like that. These are SH Figuarts Dragon Ball characters. Let me know in the comments if you can tell which figures are used for these. Now this Batman is honestly kind of a pain to work with when it comes to the cape. Don't get me wrong, I love a long flowing cape, but when people were complaining about the cape being too large, I didn't agree, but now I do. When I saw the figure in reviews and stuff, I thought the giant cape is awesome, and I kind of wasn't understanding like, oh, it has wires, what's the problem? I like having a big cape, and I like what you can do with all that fabric, wrapping it around him, doing some crazy stuff. But while animating, it really exposed how little wires there are in here. There are only 4 wires here. There's 2 at the edges and then 2 more, a couple of segments next to those. In my opinion, there should be wires on every single segment. This is why I always say that animation is just the best way to get to know a figure, because animating this cape was a pain, and it just made me wish there were more wires already in this cape, and made me wish I had more control of that cape. And I mean, that would have just made it a better figure for posing in general, but especially for animation. So yeah, my issues with the cape were a little annoying, and I actually had to reshoot this scene twice. Well, I had to shoot it twice and reshoot it once, because yeah, that cape was giving me a lot of trouble, and as I was trying to go frame by frame and copy the intro, I just had a lot of trouble getting the right shapes with it, and it ends up looking really choppy when you move it because there's so much fabric. It's hard to control all of that incrementally in animation like you're supposed to do. When I'm animating fabric, of course it needs to have wires in it, and my strategy is to just focus on the silhouette of the fabric and just try and make it flow and get some nice waving and CNS curves in there. I don't worry too much about what's going on in the back. As long as the silhouette looks good, usually that'll look pretty good for animation. As you can see, the first time I did this, I try to make it so that when Batman stands up, the cape fully envelops him. And you can't really tell because everything is in silhouette in the intro, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're going for, the cape fully enveloping him as he stands up. But that didn't really turn out too well and ended up with a really choppy result. So the second time around, I just focused on smoothness, and I didn't focus so much on trying to copy exactly what happens in the animated version. I actually don't have any gun accessories because I don't really collect soldiers or figures that have guns. So I just had to scrounge around my collection, and I don't collect accessories or anything. So this is what I came up with, and I got this one figure, this green guy holding SH Figuarts Trunks' sword. And then I've got the guy on the right, the blue guy, he's got this hammer from the Sentinel Miles Morales. This Batarang scene was a lot of fun. I used a skewer to hold up the Batarang as I move it around the screen, and I thought it worked pretty well with things like that, simple things that, especially when they move fast, your precision isn't that important. You just have to make sure that the arc is being followed and the main movement looks smooth. During this scene, I didn't want any trouble with the skewer overlapping the characters and then having to mask it out, so I just opted to not do the Batarang here and do it digitally only, although I do have it appearing when it hits their actual hands. I cut out some effects here for when the Batarang hits their hands, and I thought this looked cool. It's literally just paper that I cut out and with spikes on it, and it works really well. I highly recommend you try doing this. You just have to make sure the effect is kind of facing the camera, and it's a really easy and nice effect. You just blue tack it to the back of whatever is getting hit, and it looks good. It's a nice cartoony, cool effect. This scene of Batman leaping forward is probably my favorite scene in how it turned out. I think I finally managed to control the cape in this one. I managed to get a nice flow and nice shapes out of it thanks to it being mostly a spread out type of pose. It was a bit challenging animating all three characters on the same frame. I kind of had to choose which character gets the stand, or not even use the stand because I don't really want to mask it out, especially with three characters and possible overlap issues. I've said this before, but I really try to avoid using the stand where I can. It just saves me a lot of time with not having to mask it. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just try to hold the figure by one of its limbs, or maybe Batman by the cape, just out of frame, so you can't see my hand or my fingers. And then it'll help me just get that in the air pose without having to attach it to my stand and then worry about masking it out later. Another challenge with this big cape is how it interacts with having a stand. The stand usually sticks directly to the back of the figure, so it does get in the way of the cape. If I need that cape to be fully sprawled out, the stand would just be in the way. These punching scenes were some of the easier ones to do just because I'm so used to doing punching and generic fighting animation. This was a lot of fun. This is a little bit more straightforward and a bit more up my alley because I always animate fight scenes with just a lot of punching. So we got this blue guy throwing this mean punch, and I'm really following the animation, the 2D animation from the original show here. I really went frame by frame and tried to match some of the movements exactly. It pushed the limits of the action figure's range of movement, and sometimes I just had to settle for the next best thing in terms of that pose. And this is one thing I'm always recommending to people, is to copy animation that you see. Me doing this, I can definitely keep recommending that because I learned a lot about timing, I learned a lot about posing. This whole animated sequence is so focused on silhouettes because, I mean, the whole thing is basically in silhouette. It really forces you to nail down your posing. And this final punch here is just all about hitting that impact and that really nice pose with the cape moving over to the side. I did something a little bit new here with the goon getting punched, and I didn't find a good place where I could have attached the stand without being annoying, so instead I tried to use some of this wire to hang it up. We'll see how much of a challenge it is to mask out. I don't think it'll be that bad because of how thin it is, but we'll see. I haven't done that yet as of recording this. After I shot the final few scenes, it was time to take it to post-production. There I work my magic in compositing and mask out the stands, and anything else that I don't want showing. Now that's done, all that's left is to put it together and watch the final product. I hope you had as much fun watching as I had making it. It was a really fun challenge to do and really pushed my creativity to the limits. I had to build my own set and think about how to shoot each shot and make it look different. When it came to the animating, matching the original intro, which is so well animated, was a challenge as well. It pushed me to achieve strong posing and good silhouettes. It also involved some fun character acting that I normally wouldn't do on my own. After doing a challenge like this, I feel a lot more confident to come up with my own sequences and get even more creative. Let me know what other iconic sequences you would like to see remade. I probably won't have the figures needed, but I'll do it anyways. Thanks again for watching, like and subscribe to see more.